and the social and economic development of the citizens of Colorado Dominica. Lord, shower us with your blessings. Shower us with your power of discernment. Shower us with the wisdom that we require as we prepare the United Workers' Party for leadership in the next government of the Commonwealth of Dominica. We give you thanks and praise for all that you have done for us thus far and all that you will do for us in the coming months. We give you thanks and praise for your Son, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Judge, for this opening prayer. Let me, as the president of the party, welcome the various media houses to this press conference. I know we have staffed you for one over the last few days and weeks, but it's also necessary that you feel a little bit need for information and for solution. And that is why today we have this press conference. We have allowed time to pass by and the hunger for hearing solutions from the United Workers' Party. Because clearly the government has gone to sleep. These guys are very busy trying to maintain their status and their power and doing everything they can to ensure that they remain politically relevant, to cling on to power, to keep their consumption and their greed in good state. But we in the United Workers' Party, we have a different approach to the governance of this country, and that is why today we think very fit to have this press conference, because we have to address the current issues that exist in the country. It's a lot, and also to give people hope that the UWP has the right answers and policies to deal with some of those problems that we have in the country, and that the people can now find favor in us and give us the opportunity to move this country in the right direction. So ladies and gentlemen, to our press who are here today, we have Q95, I see we have MO, DNO, and we have Oswald, the big man judge himself, in the house. So welcome, and at this point I would like to call on the political leader to address this press conference.
Good morning to everyone that assembled here, as well as to those of you who are viewing us online and listening to us via Q95 and other media. We are having this press conference this morning in the context of a deteriorating economy in Dominica, increasing hardships for the Dominican people, especially right now with the rising costs of fuel and electricity. We clearly have a crumbling road network, a lingering partial ban for travel to the United States, a failing health system, and quite frankly, a government that has lost its way with respect to governance of this country and its growing inability to effect any positive change. As a political party that is poised to contest the next election and to form the next government of this country, it is our responsibility to remind the Dominican public of our plans to once again put money into the pockets of the Dominican people, our brothers and sisters. That we will do through our 10 pillars to shared prosperity that is focused on revitalizing the agricultural sector, developing a very strong and profitable water industry, attracting foreign direct investments that can set up factories and other manufacturing activity in order to create jobs and more jobs for our young people in particular. In addition, we will do away with the extremely high taxes. The increase in the minimum wage, of course, we have already said to move that to $12 an hour at the very least. We'll pursue our renewable energy development, build, once again, resilient infrastructure to help us through those changing climate times, will improve our social equity and the inclusion of our people in a transparent government with a zero corruption policy. People of Dominica, my fellow citizens, there is a pressing need in this country for a government which has the best interests of its people at heart. In that context, I want to turn my attention now to some of the more vexing issues which confronts us at this time. I wish to begin with the high fuel prices. As those of you know, those of you who drive around Dominica, gas prices have been on the rise since the start of the Iran war, through, of course, no fault of ours here in Dominica. It's now approaching $20 a gallon of both diesel and petrol. And these are serious implications, of course, implications for commuter fares. So there may be increases in commuter fares, as well as other implications of these rising prices. There is therefore a need for some government intervention, which we have not seen. As most of you would know, the government of Dominica takes $3.50 on every gallon of gas that is sold in this country. So from the $20 that you're paying, $3.50 goes to the government of Dominica. In a time like this, where the price of gasoline is hitting the roof, I think it is a good time for the government of Dominica to take the initiative and, in fact, agree for a reduction in this $3.50. It will be a temporary measure, but it will go a long way towards easing the pain and the suffering that you're witnessing here in Dominica. And I just want to let the people of Dominica know, that a United Workers' Party government will go a step further. That if, and I say if because we are about to review all of the taxes that are imposed upon the backs of the Dominican Republic, if this tax remains, there will be an automatic trigger within that tax that would allow for its removal anytime gas prices spike above a certain level, so that we can absorb some of the pain out of the backs of the people of this country. That's one of the things that we are promising to do as a government of this country. In addition, we would like to recommend to the government of Dominica that they lead an effort amongst CARICOM to have a discussion with the government of Guyana. As you know, Guyana sits on some of the largest reserves of oil and natural gas in the entire world. It's a fellow neighbor, a fellow CARICOM partner, and we believe that now is a good time to start a conversation with the government of Guyana with a view to allowing us to access cheaper gasoline here in Dominica. Something along the lines of what was done with the Petro-Carib agreement, which Venezuela so graciously did for Dominica. We believe that this can be done, and we are making a recommendation to our government that they work through CARICOM to get that in place so that the other CARICOM countries will similarly benefit. And I believe that the people and government of Guyana would very well support such an initiative to ensure that we have this reduction in gasoline prices. To the consumers of Dominica, you may have noticed that notwithstanding the introduction of geothermal energy, our electrical bills continue to rise. So what we are saying is there is a complete pass-through of the geothermal cost to the people of Dominica. So much so that last month, or rather this current month of May, when there was about a $200,000 reduction in the diesel, geothermal cost us about $323,000, and the entire $323,000 was passed on to the consumer. So we had some savings on gasoline, yes, but the pass-through was there through the geothermal fee that every Dominican has to pay. It was our hope that with the introduction of the geothermal energy, that we would see lower, much lower electricity prices. This has not yet happened. It is still our hope that this will in fact be the case. But for this to happen, there must not be a complete pass-through of the prices. In that regard, I would like to address a very important matter concerning the geothermal energy. You may recall that the government of Dominica spent over, we are told, $200 million in exploration and research and the digging of the wells. And when all that was done, mysteriously passed on the generation to a foreign company. And this foreign company has control of that resource for the next 25 years, at which time they will pass back to government. This is another of the very strange arrangements that this government has entered to with foreign companies. We have seen it in the CBI, we have seen it in the dredging of our rivers, we have seen it in the post-hurricane rehabilitation, where foreign companies and foreign firms seems to get precedent over Dominican firms. And not only that, sometimes with very, very dubious contracts. And that's one of the reasons why we have taken the government to court, and we'll be hearing a little further from our deputy leader about our efforts in that regard to get to the heart of the CBI. But here we have another instance where such an important resource that really should be in the hands of the Dominican public, that really should be contributing towards the lowest electricity rates anywhere in the world. But because it's in the hand of a foreign company that now has to make its millions of dollars in profits, then the people of Dominica continue to suffer. This is not the way to do business. This is the wrong-headed way. The government continues to do poorly by the people of Dominica. And whilst I'm on this, let me just add, what we've seen always is the elevation or the putting of foreigners above Dominicans, whether it's in contracts, whether it's just doing the actual work. You know, as I drove today, I saw the many trucks lined up on the port. And I was looking to see a fellow Dominican trucker in one of those trucks. They were not. These are all foreigners enjoying the riches of Dominica at the expense of the Dominican public. And that's the reason why we have said it, and I'll say it again today, that as a government, we will ensure that at least 70% of any contract that has anything to do with government here in Dominica goes to the local people. Our local contractors will have first bid, our local truck drivers, our local equipment operators. In other words, we will take care of our people first and foremost. That will be central to the way we govern as a government. That will be central to the way we treat our people. Because we believe that this government has not worked in the best interest of the Dominican public. And this is further example of this. So in that regard, we are calling on the government of Dominica to make available to the people of Dominica the contract that is assigned with the company that is now generating geothermal energy. It is important that we see the details of this contract to know what it is that we should expect. In other words, we are asking, is there going to be a point where the pass-through, and what I mean is that whatever Domlec pays to this company, because again, man, Domlec is not the one generating the geothermal. It is purchasing, the same way it is purchasing diesel to run its turbines. It is purchasing geothermal now to distribute. So Domlec is a distributor. We would like to know what arrangement it has and whether there is any chance that there will be a reduction to the people of Dominica going forward. Because it cannot be that we have a completely free resource here in Dominica, that we are endowed with 9 out of the 16 volcanoes that grace the Caribbean region, and yet we are now going down the geothermal route, and instead of our prices going down, it's going up. I mean, that is clearly unacceptable. And you would have noticed that as soon as it was introduced, you would have noticed the almost 30% rise in the fees that Domlec was paying. So we are saying that the government can do better than this. We want to see, the people of Dominica does want to see what is contained in this contract and to see whether there's any relief coming for the people of Dominica as far as the geothermal is concerned. Let me at this time focus on agriculture. I like agriculture a lot, that particular topic, because we are sitting on an agriculture country. Our wealth is not in oil, our wealth is in agriculture. And the day the government labeled agriculture as a has-been industry was the beginning of the end of our economy. And as such, we have been placing a lot of emphasis, even as an opposition party, or party in opposition, we have been placing significant emphasis on the agriculture sector because we believe that this has the ability to change the fortunes and the lives of more than 70% of the population of Dominica that now live and reside in the rural areas of Dominica. In the past few months, our party, through the efforts of our Deputy President and myself, we have been engaged in the process of seeking new markets for our produce. We have succeeded so far in getting a dash-in market that we have been able to service for the past several months. It has brought in already over $100,000 into the economy of Dominica just for that single effort. And it continues to grow. In fact, just last week, we got double the amount that was needed. And of course, when we turned around, we could not find the produce because many of our farmers have now gone quiet. They have now given up. But what we've been able to do is that we've been able to inspire our farmers. So now that the farmers know that we are buying your dash-in, they're telling us that they are planting, that they will start to plant because now they can see that there is in fact a market. Because in the past, many of them, the dash-in would rot in the ground. We had that happening over and over. I come from the dash-in belt, a village of Grand Fort, and I know the pain and the agony of the farmers. Year after year, the dash-in would be rotting in the ground. But we've taken that initiative as a party to do this. But we have not stopped there, because we see agriculture, as I said, as the way forward, and it's one of our key pillars to revitalizing Dominica's economy. In my recent travel abroad, although it was on personal business, I was able to have discussions with a firm that is involved in the manufacture of juices. They can juices that they ship all over the world. And our discussion centered around Dominica being able to provide all of the pineapples that they would need. So we would grow the pineapples here in Dominica. We would put it into pulp and ship it to that company until, of course, we start doing our own factories here in Dominica. But in the interim, it will provide an opportunity for pineapple farmers and others who want to go into this. It is still in its early phases. We still have to discuss pricing and shipping arrangements. We also have to talk to the farmers who are interested. But that is something that I believe will continue to add value to agriculture, and we'll continue to work on those types of efforts even while we continue to be in opposition. So these are some of the things that we are doing to revitalize the agriculture sector. Citizens of Dominica, my fellow Dominicans, we have seen recently we have seen pictures and images of refugees from third countries arriving on the shores of Caribbean countries. So that tells me that our turn is surely coming up soon. But we have heard very little from this government. They are yet to tell us how many refugees we are going to take in, where they will be coming from, whether they are persons that have criminal backgrounds, but more importantly, what arrangements have been made or secured for them here in Dominica. And that is very important, because this is in the context of the continuing ban that we have here in Dominica, the ban into the United States. We do have a partial ban that has been imposed. It's up for review in June. But it's very important that we understand what exactly it is that we are getting. In other words, no pavle pièce diabasac. I'm sure all Dominicans understand what I'm saying by that statement. We want to know what we are getting into. And I believe it's very important that that type of information be forthcoming from the government of Dominica. So that is something that we'll be looking to getting some information about, because we believe that it is just about on us. Now, as I close up on my initial remarks, I want to turn to the very important issue of the election process and the confirmation process. We have seen a lot of flip-flopping by the electoral office with respect to the means by which our voters can get confirmed. Initially removing the use of the birth certificate, now reintroducing the use of the birth certificate. But even after having done that, they are now saying that you need to have a photo ID along with some kind of affidavit of identification. Now that is putting some of our people at a disadvantage, because in some cases, some individuals, I'm told, and we're still looking into this very closely, we are told that some individuals are going to some of the justice of the peace and they're getting their affidavits for free. But when our supporters go for the same service, they've been charged. All right, these are some of the issues I think that is unfair. It does not create a level playing field. It does not commit to confidence in the process, and our people continue to stay away from confirmation. I would like, however, at this point to encourage every Dominican to go out there and get confirmed. It is your right, it is your responsibility. That is the way you are going to be able to vote come the next election. So we're encouraging you to go out there and do what you have to do as your civic duty. We'll continue to do our part to assist with birth certificates. In fact, I spoke to one of our caretakers today who informed me that just yesterday he picked up 10 birth certificates for persons at the office in town. So we continue to work like that to assist. We continue to help people to get to the centers. But I believe at the end of the day, the focus must be on the individual to decide that they want change in this country, and that to get to this change, they must get to the ballot box. And to get to the ballot box, they must confirm. And so we encourage persons to do that. At this point, as I close, I'm going to call on our deputy political leader to come to the podium and to give us an update on the various court proceedings that has been taking place. As you know, you have supported us, the general public have, in taking this government to court on the CBI. And also we're challenging in some very important areas. So let's get our deputy political leader, Mr. Ronald Charles, to come to the podium and address us on these very important issues. Mr. Charles.
Okay, let me say a warm good morning to everyone. Special good morning to you, Mr. Political Leader, President, and General Secretary. It's good to be here this morning. As it relates to the cases, the CBI case, as you all may be aware, the last order was made on the 27th of January, 2026. And the trial was held on the 23rd of February, 2026. And the matter is now awaiting final judgment from the court. So what that means basically is very soon a decision will be taken as it relates to the issue before the court for the CBI matter. So we expect, we'll be waiting. I'm sure that whichever side, and I say it like that, is successful, the General Dominica will know. And I'm sure that, I believe that we will be successful, I'm sure. Okay, as it relates to the other matters, Unico Moulon versus the Attorney General. As you know, that this matter has been adjourned, and that matter will be, we have not yet gotten a response from the court in terms of a date of this matter, and soon we will get that. One of the matters that have hit the road in 2025, that is the matter with the protesters. And you're quite aware, a number of protesters were arrested on the 19th of March 2025. That matter is before the magistrate court and has been ongoing. There are various, there are other attorneys that represent the various protesters. We would say, let's say Bernard Monroe et al., Dr. Fountain is in it, myself is in it. Joshua Francis, alongside Mr. Gildon Richards, is also representing some of the protesters in this matter. What I have to say about this is that, as you may be aware, Mr. Later, Geoffrey Later, made an application on behalf of the protesters in reference to putting a stay on the proceeding. And what that means in local parlance is just hold on still until the High Court hear the judicial review application that was made by the claimants, that is us, in reference to whether or not the Riot Act is constitutional. And there are other factors in which will be taken into consideration. That matter in itself is ongoing, and we are awaiting that hearing. I just want to also state that as it relates to, I think we have one more. That's about it. As it relates to the other matters, that is Lennox Linton versus the Attorney General of Dominica. That is a matter that is brought by Mr. Linton in his personal capacity, and of course that is for the appointment of the opposition leader. That in itself was heard, the trial was set, and the decision will be final soon. So all in all, this is the different matters that we have before the Honorable Court. I want to take this opportunity to thank all the persons who have been donating to some of these matters. We really appreciate that. Because as you will know, that these matters, they attract fees and so forth, and we have senior counsel and other persons from Trinidad representing the people in Dominica as it relates to that. So this is where we're at. Let me just echo one or two sentiments from the political leader, and I'll say it in this way, that separate and apart from the United Workers' Party and the opposition parties doing what they have to do to ensure that we get a change and a window of change in Dominica. I want to echo that it is very important that we get confirmed and we ensure that we can vote when that time comes. It's all well and good to, we always get pressure that we should be doing this, we should be doing that, we should be doing this. But also I believe as a people, one have to kind of embrace their own responsibility. And that is go and get confirmed, be on the ballot paper, and be ready to vote for that change. And then you would have done what you can do in your capacity. So I want to encourage everybody to do this, especially the young people. I want to encourage them to go out there and get registered. Some of them are not registered. Our young people also, I want to say to you that Dominica belongs to you. 25 years from now, after they give us back the geothermal, if it ever comes, what happens? It means that you have to deal with all those things. Right? It's important that you take some kind of responsibility to ensure that you're part and parcel of the development in Dominica. That is all I have to say for now. I want to say thank you for the opportunity. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ronald Charles, the Deputy Political Leader, and our political leader, Dr. Thompson Fountain. I'm telling you, like agriculture, he was raised carrying bananas and dashing in the heights of Grand Fond,
and has achieved a real PhD in economics. And we have heard him as it relates to some of the issues that we're facing at this time. Dominica don't need no political solution, we need economic solution. And we have an economist ready and prepared to take that mantle with a solid team that we are putting together. So much excitement now that we have 3, 4, and 5 people putting up their hands in various constituencies to challenge the incumbent, sleeping, and greedy Dominica Labour Party. So it's exciting times here for us in the United Workers' Party, and we are happy to engage you with any questions that you may have or any comments that you want to make. The floor is open to the media houses.
You said 3 and 4 candidates are raising their hands. What about the rest of them?
I didn't hear.
You said 3 and 4 people are raising their hands.
I said in each constituency. You should listen more carefully, Mark, and do a little more research. Listen carefully. You don't twist it on us. We are prepared. We're very prepared. 3 and 4 candidates in each of our constituencies. You heard our St. German say give him another week because he has to deal with more than one person. So you have to listen carefully. All right, Matt, so I think that is clear. So the floor is open.
All right. As it relates to candidates, Mr. President, I'm hearing that from the Marigot constituency that there's some, quote unquote, a little controversy in terms of the selection of a candidate. I'm hearing that the team on the ground has selected one candidate and the executive of the United Workers' Party has selected another. Now we have criticized Mr. Skerritt for that approach in terms of his selecting his candidates and not the people in terms of the constituency. What can you tell us in terms of clarifying that issue? Who's your candidate? Why is there controversy? Is there any controversy?
Matt, thanks for the question. There is no controversy over the selection of a candidate for the Marigot constituency. There is a process by which our candidates are selected. This process has started in the Marigot constituency and it is ongoing. All right, so that is all I'm prepared to say for now. At the end of the day, we will have a candidate that we are sure will represent the best of the United Workers' Party in that constituency. But I don't think that people should be blowing that out of proportion. They are going through a similar process in all of the constituencies. So what we are working on very, very hard, though, is to ensure that we have our candidates in place by a certain date so that we are well prepared for the next election.
Can you tell me whether it's 2 or 3 candidates that raised their hand in Marigot?
We have, I can tell you there were 2 for sure that have raised their hands. Definitely 2, yes.
No selection just yet.
The process is ongoing. It's an ongoing process, which obviously is an internal process, which I will not say publicly, but it's a process that guarantees that at the end of the day, whoever is selected is the candidate that is chosen by everybody, by the majority, by the people. Absolutely. No, Matt, no. We have never done it business this way in the party, and we're not going to start now under my leadership. We have a process, and we're going to respect that process of candidate selection.
Can you identify that I've seen on Facebook a lot of other candidates have been elected as the president just alluded to? Can you identify any of the possible candidates? Well,
we have here, for the Roseau Central constituency, we have made it public that we have a new candidate to replace Glenroy Suso Coffey. Let me just say a big thank you to him for his continued service to the party. He fought well in the 2019 elections, was unsuccessful, but he's been replaced by Ms. Juliet Schillingford, a native of Roseau, former chief planner here in Dominica in the Ministry of Planning, and a very competent individual who has given herself up to serve the people of this great city. So we are very happy for that. We are also working on other candidates as well throughout. And let me just assure the Dominican public that they should not worry about us getting candidates. At the end of the day, we are going through a process that ensures that we have the best candidates in every single constituency. And that is where we're headed, and we're making very good progress in that regard.
How confident are you about this candidate just named
Like every other candidate, I'm very confident of her, given her professional background and her commitment to service. She's been here in Dominica. She's served this country well, and she's looking to serve this country in a different capacity as a representative for Roseau Central. And we're very happy to have someone like that with us. There are other candidates that we'll be naming as we go along, but the work continues in that regard. The work continues.
Any possible dates of a launching for the Roseau Central constituency?
Well, the work has started. Obviously, once we know, once we better understand when elections will be, that will determine the calendar of activities. But for now, the important thing is to do the work. And already she's hit the ground running, and we're very happy for that.
If I may just follow up on the question disability passed. Can the United Workers' Party convince the populace that they are able to manage the affairs of Dominica when it seems like the affairs of the party itself is in turmoil?
I'm glad you use the word seems, all right, because this is a perception that is out there that has been created by some, especially some on the other side, on the Labour Party side, that there is division and so on within the party. Disunity is the term that is used. You see a party that is well organized, a party that is focused, a party that has followed a democratic tradition in the selection of its leaders, and that continues. I think, we can boast to having a very solid system of selection. And it is just natural that within any party, a party of volunteers effectively, that there would be differences, of course, but differences does not mean disunity. It means just that, differences. And it's very important to note as well that at the end of the day, what's important is that we are able to convince the Dominican public that we have the best plan to get the country from where it is. We make no apologies in wanting to put money back into the pockets of the Dominican public. That is something that we continue to stress over and over again. Okay, our commitment to the people of Dominica is to revitalize agriculture, to have water, the water industry, to make money out of what we have in this country. And we make no apologies for that. And that is where we are. And everybody within the United Workers' Party is of that same vision. And we are all headed in the same direction. And that is why we continue to attract candidates. That's why in some constituencies, as you heard, we're having 4 and 5 persons raising their hands. These are individuals who see a party that is committed, a party that has a vision, and a party that is singularly focused on bringing change to this country. And that is what the Republic of Dominica is supporting. And we're very grateful for that.
Also, I have a follow-up question. You mentioned in your last response something about when elections. I don't have your direct statements, but something to the tune of that you're watching when elections are going to be called. Well, we have the phrase in Dominica, they'll cut your pants down. Realize we have a prime minister. When the same Mr. Petty asked him at the last press conference about waiting for confirmation, was it the 15 months or the 12 months to be over to call elections, he gave a response which indicated that he has the power to call elections at any time. That being compared with your statement of waiting to see. Do you think that's the correct approach? Or do you think that the United Workers' Party will be caught with their pants down?
No. But when my response to that was specifically related to when we are going to launch the candidate, like have a big launching party for the candidate. Remember I said that the candidates are working already. That was just the launching, like when you have, typically within the political fray, when you have a launching, you wait until the last month and you have a big thing where you put everybody out. It does not mean that they're not working before that. That's what I was referring to. What we're doing very, very hard is that we are campaigning very, very strongly. As you would know, we have just had just a break of 2 weeks. But before that, we were having meetings practically every week. Every week we are on the ground in a different constituency. We are reaching out, we are doing the work, the hard work that is necessary to ensure that we are prepared. So it's no question of having our pants down. It's unfortunate that the Prime Minister would not commit to at least allowing the confirmation process to end before calling an election. So knowing that, we continue to work very, very hard. And that's why we are getting our candidates in order. We are on the ground reaching out to the people. We are creating converts every day, and we are very happy about that. So there's no question of, we are as ready as we can be given the circumstances, and we're getting even better prepared as the days go forward.
In terms of the candidates again, and the selection of these candidates, as you spoke about earlier, was that same process followed in the Roseau constituency in terms of selection?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, it was. It was the exact same process that we see now in Marigot, that we see now in La Plaine, that we see in the various constituencies. The exact same process has been followed.
Make any statement in any foreign forum that you can veto the process in terms of choosing, going over the constituency branch in terms of selecting a candidate?
Yeah, well, again, it's part of the process. Part of the process allows the political leader some leeway, some leverage. Absolutely. And it's only fair because, I mean, at the end of the day, the political leader is entrusted with leading the party to the polls and to victory, and all of those considerations have to be taken on board. So it's part of the process. But it's very important to note that is only in extreme cases. What you want is the candidate to emerge from the community, which is what we have been engaged in.
So my question to you is that earlier you mentioned that the government is supposed to give us relief on oil, petrol, and stuff like that. Now, a couple months ago, we had the 50th anniversary of CARICOM in St. Kitts. We know that soon the Prime Minister of Dominica is going to be the chairman of CARICOM. In that meeting in St. Kitts, he was interviewed. He said that, the media person asked him, what's the concerns of a Dominican? And he said, I don't know. I don't have the proper quote. But he said that I'm going to bring up the narrow views of Dominicans. Something like to that extent. Now, with Venezuela, Trinidad, we knew that Venezuela under Maduro was threatening Trinidad, and majority of CARICOM countries will stay quiet. Majority stay quiet. So, do you really think that the Prime Minister of Dominica, as the chairman, soon wanna negotiate on behalf of Dominicans so that they can relief? How confident you feel about that now?
That's a very tough question, but a very good one as well. The thing about diplomacy is your ability to win over individuals. Because as we say in politics, there are no permanent friends and no permanent enemies. That it's all about interests and how you can bring people to your side of you. I believe in the area of, or on the issue of getting relief for the CARICOM region, that is something that our Prime Minister should very well champion. Because especially now, as he's going to be the chair of CARICOM, it's an excellent opportunity. Because it's not only been felt here in Dominica, it's been felt in St. Lucia, in St. Vincent, and so on. So it's an opportunity to show leadership. And I trust that he will show that leadership because we need the relief in this country. And we hope that, now that he has a solid recommendation from the United Workers' Party, that he'll be able to act on it.
Okay. Recently, I think one of the Prime Ministers in CARICOM said the concerns that the Trinidadians have with the General Secretary is of no use. Now, recently, the Prime Minister of Trinidad said that come August, they are not going to
support.
The General Secretary. They are not going to observe as the General Secretary of CARICOM. So, as you can see, there's a division within CARICOM. What is your views concerning that?
Yes, I do agree that there appears to be some divergence of views within CARICOM and different siding and taking of sides and so on, which is not unusual in an organization like CARICOM. That is a regional grouping that was formed many, many years ago, from 1962, under the Treaty of Chaguaramas, for example, where it was hoped that all of the Caribbean countries would come together and be able to contribute towards trade and development. We have not seen a whole lot of that, to the point where even now we see countries even taking sidelines. For example, we have the recent announcement of freedom of movement between Dominica, Belize, Barbados, and St. Vincent, or is it St. Lucia? Yeah, we've seen that, and that is something. It shows that CARICOM itself is not fully focused, and I hope that all of those issues with the Secretary General and so on. It is my hope that those issues can be resolved, because it's an important organization. It maybe has not lived up to its billing, maybe has not lived up to its expectations, but there is certainly room for improvement, and I hope that this is an opportunity, that they take this opportunity now to mend over some of the problems that CARICOM is faced with.
You mentioned the two agricultural initiatives that the Lucas factory was able to get off the ground. Can these initiatives be maintained considering all the factors affecting agriculture presently? First being the rise in fertilizers and other inputs, and secondly, the lack of labor.
Yeah, well, okay. These are two critical issues that has to be addressed, and that's the reason why we have agreed as a United Workers' Party that when we're in office, we are going to tackle the idea of agriculture differently, because it would mean having to give significant support to the farmers, which is very important, which obviously we're not able to do right now. But once in office, we'll be able to give significant support to the farmers. We have to, again, work on the issue of labor. But like everything else, as long as the price is right, you will get people to work in those areas. We've seen it. I mean, the United States is able to pay farm workers. Canada is able to pay farm workers. Scores of Dominicans have gone to Canada to work in the fields. They've gone because the price is right. So we believe that we can, you can attract labor where the price is right. And if your agriculture is to the point where it is profitable, it is top scale, we are convinced that we'll be able to get the right people that we need in those areas.
My question is more on maintaining the present markets, because you're saying when we get into office, but I would want to think that we want to maintain the markets that we've already formed.
Yes.
So that when we get into the markets, we build on that. So
Yes.
my question is about maintaining, because we've had issues like that before, that suppliers come, even hucksters, they complain that presently they are not able to get because of the lack of interest and everything else. So my question was more focused on maintaining those
Yes,
markets.
okay.
Do you believe that there is a plan in place or that our farmers, exactly and so on, are able to continuously maintain those markets that you're found?
Yes, so what the farmers want is certainty, okay? If the farmers know that the markets will be there, so the refrain that we're hearing, because we have been doing this now for 8 months, all right? And the refrain that we're hearing, we've seen you guys consistently over 8 months. It appears that this market is there to stay. We can now go and plant, all right? Because a number of them, they were still doing their small thing, and they were planting their small, but even the small amount they were planting was being wasted. Dashing is unique in the sense that it's not as labor intensive. Even the fertilizer, some you don't even have to use fertilizer depending on where the areas that it is planted at. So it is not as input intensive as some of the other. So in terms of that specific market, we see it has been sustained. Already, as you may have know, that we are already having some issues with the production, where it takes 6 to 8 months for the dashing to produce. So if farmers have started to plant, when they see that process, we're hoping that we can sustain it throughout. So that effort is definitely on the way. But it is encouraging, because we see that now farmers are beginning to say, well, yeah, as long as those markets are there and they're consistent, we'll be able to do what we have to do.
Question again, is there a challenge launching candidates where the other opposition parties have made launch as well? And is there consideration for a better strategy moving forward with the opposition, the other opposition parties?
But as you know, there are 3 registered parties, well, 4. You have the third party, UPP, the Freedom Party, and the United Workers' Party. These four are the registered parties that we have in Dominica currently. It's important that I believe that going into any election, that the opposition is united. It has been shown in country after country that where there's a united opposition, there's less chance of splitting the votes, there's less chance of fragmenting the opposition. So that idea of the opposition working together is critical. We have already started those discussions, and I'm happy to say that it's moving along nicely. At this point, I cannot tell you who is going where, who is doing what, but what I can tell you is that we will have a united front going into the next election.
You will. Now, I spoke to political scientist Mr. Kalinago just last week, and he said the only way he thinks the opposition groups, it's a UWP, TOD, whatever, you guys have to form a strategy moving forward. You agree that that's the best strategy moving forward in terms of using a united force?
Well, it's not inconsistent with what I've said. If you're going to work together, you have to at some point agree on the best way forward. So I believe we'll get to that point. Yeah.
But the election does, in terms of the strategy on the ground, what we're hearing there, that the Prime Minister may call a snap election. How long will we have to wait to see you guys operating on the same time?
Yeah, but you see, Matt, what you have to note is that the work continues. The work of convincing Dominicans to vote for the opposition is on. It's well and truly on. People are doing what they have to do. So at the end of the day, it's about having a specific candidate in a particular constituency. That will come. But for now, we continue. In other words, it does not prevent us from doing the hard work of canvassing the houses, going to the various villages, talking to the people, presenting specific plans. It does not prevent that. All of that is ongoing.
Here's the question to Mr. President. He's smiling in the corner there.
Mr.
President, yes. Are you satisfied? Because I heard at the last time I spoke to you that you were speaking about bringing some specialists, or the government inviting some specialists on the ground, sort of observe this phenomenon, the land movement in the area and after the trough. Are you satisfied that enough experts are on the ground at this time, or what position with the Kalinago territory?
All right, so before I go into that, I was smiling because you insist on asking about, the coalition and so on, or what I call the collaboration of parties. And I kind of a little disappointed with you because when the Prime Minister said he could call the election based on the Constitution, you didn't press him to say, well, at least the law, the new electoral law 2025 is also part of our law, and it deserves the same kind of respect that he has to call election anytime. I didn't hear you press him like that. But you're looking to press us. You're looking to press us on those things. This is strategy, Matt. We will work it out, and it will be in the best interest of all Dominicans. I can guarantee you that. We are not rushing the brush. We are taking our time. And this man is PhD. I close behind a master's degree, and the others are in the education field. We're good, and we're on the ground. We were raised in the countryside, so we're street smart, and we still have the academic. So we'll play it out, and we will bring the results for the Dominican people, because the Dominican people need those reliefs. And you ask about the Kalinago territory. The disaster was a category 1. And I try to explain that to people all the time, Matt. I want to appeal to you to listen to me carefully. In a category 1 disaster, the responsibility of relief and disaster response lies fully on the hands of the government. When you move to a category 3 and above, then you get international help and they come in and they assist. Right? So the government has the full responsibility of responding to disaster in the Kalinago territory that many of you have seen on the photos, the damage caused. And if you were to take a walk in the community, you could see even more profoundly the kind of damage that was done. So we have put out the request. What I can say is that they have responded that they will do that, but this is not yet happening. They have responded that they will seek expert help in that area. I really wish and I hope that they do it because it's necessary, because there's something going on in the Kalinago territory. I cannot place a finger as to why this is happening, but the Atkinson people, and it also went as far as North End, which is in close proximity to where the blasting is happening down in the Pigwa area, in the Krapohal area. So I don't want to say it's the blasting of the lower bedded rocks within that framework that is causing that, but something is definitely going on there when you look at the way the land is just dropping and so many cracks happening, not just in the Kalinago territory, but also the north end, the Margaret area, which is less than 2 kilometers away from where the blasting is taking place. So that needs to be researched, very scientifically and to get to know. But while this is going on, and we have in all these natural disasters, the people are still blasting. There's no halt. The Chinese are going up there, they're still blasting for the stones, and things is going on as normal. So that we have a concern about, and we would need more speed in doing this because people lost a lot of their livelihood. People have saved all their lives, built a little house in the Kalinago territory. They cannot get a mortgage because of the way it's set up. And to lose all of that, and the government now is not even sure whether they can rebuild in those areas because they have no guarantee that the land is going to stay stable or move away. So there is a need for more urgency, I could say that, but I think they have committed to it, so I'm giving them the benefit of that to make it happen and to give the people some good response. And as I said earlier, and I'll repeat again, this kind of showmanship response, the politics have its place, and the Prime Minister is within his own space to come in and take pictures and meet with the people and smile and do all the things. This is all well and good. But what happens after is more important. And by now I would expect him to have a team of experts on the ground, people in planning, people in housing, people in environment, people in social welfare, and the Kalinago people, the leadership of the Kalinago territory and the elderly, sitting down and coming up with something that can guide the way forward for the Kalinago territory. That is what I would like to see. That is what the UW government would do with me being part of that team. But yeah, I understand the politics and the showmanship. But there is a place and time for that. Now it's time for serious business, and this is taking too much time. And they need to speed up on that. All right?
Yeah, and then let me just add very, very quickly on this issue of the Kalinago territory, because, the United Workers' Party, we responded in a timely manner in terms of assisting the persons who suffered loss with the support of the general public, and we're very happy for that. But also, I must say that I have been disappointed in the treatment or the way the Prime Minister handled the situation. The Kalinago territory has a special place within Dominica, and I think it is very important that the leader or the Kalinago Council leader be respected as such. And we saw a decided lack of respect for the Kalinago chief. I think it's unfortunate, and I think the way these things should be done is when something like that happens, that you work together with the Kalinago territory. There's a reason why it's a separate, it's a region within Dominica, and even as the Prime Minister, it is just normal. It's expected that you respect the role and the functions of the Kalinago chief, and that was not done in this case. We saw a complete disregard, if you like, for the Kalinago Council and the Kalinago chief, and that clearly is not acceptable in our democracy. I think it is important that we respect the Kalinago people. We respect them, for what they brought to Dominica. And as a student of history, I know very well the tremendous role that the Kalinagos played in the Negmawa movement. They're the ones that showed our forebears the tracks and the places to hide out from the colonizers. So they played a critical role, and they continue to play a critical role in our history. But we all know what happened after the disaster, almost an effort to dismiss the Kalinago Council. I think that is wrong. They do have, under the UN Charter, the Kalinago Council does have a unique place in terms of the way they interact with government, and we did not see that happening. And I think that I just wanted to make it very clear that the United Workers' Party will respect the rights of the Kalinago people, and it will also respect the role and the functions of the Kalinago chief.
You mentioned before I ask about what you mentioned, how does the UWP plan to fix Dominica's economy in light of the world economy's failing? How are you going to convince the Dominican people that you have a plan to fix the economy when we see different things coming on each and every day?
Yes, well, I'll tell you this. I'm not sure how much you know of my background as an economist and where I've worked and what I've done across the globe. And I believe that a lot of that experience will be brought to bear here in Dominica. What we do have for us in Dominica, which is not in other countries, for example, a number of the other Caribbean countries, is just the amount of natural resource that we have. In other words, we can turn our natural resources into money. It does not happen under this government. We can turn...
Because remember, we're also talking about
sustainably, absolutely. So that's why you have a plan. That's why I said with agriculture, it must involve substantive support to the farmers. With the water industry, it's about ensuring that you bottle the water as well as the bulk water exports and as well as other things that we can do to strengthen it. So the other thing that Dominica has going for it is its size. We're a country of probably 65,000 people now. Let's say 70,000 people for argument's sake. 70,000 people. So really what you're trying to do is to if you create 20,000 good paying jobs, you're well on your way, all right, to getting to where we want to get. And we believe that we can get to that point. We have the expertise within the party. We have seen the experience in other countries, and we know what to do to get to that point. You know, when you're ill with a cancer, for example, if somebody is ill for cancer, you don't necessarily go to your regular doctor, right? You go for the experts. You seek the best experts. There's a reason for that, because those experts bring a particular view to that problem that will help your cause. It's the same thing for the economy. Our economy is struggling now. So you want the economy in the hands of the most capable economists in the globe, and I happen to be one of those. So, being able to bring that expertise to Dominica, I think is good, and I hope the Dominican public understands and recognizes that potential that exists there.
But I also mentioned in light of world events, because you mentioned that you would suggest the government take less on taxes and on gas for gas, but I mean, when you look at world events, it's almost like I'm wondering whether what economy can be fixed.
Absolutely, because there are economies that are doing really well. St. Kitts is doing well within the region. St. Kitts is doing very well. St. Vincent has been picking up. Barbados is flying high. We can do a lot better here in Dominica, because bear in mind, notwithstanding those constraints, what you have to find out is what you can do best in this country. What can we do here to create those jobs? We can attract foreign direct investments, which we have had practically zero of. What we've had under this government is companies coming here into Dominica and taking away our money. That's what we've had. We need to reverse that. We need to have a situation where companies are coming now with their investments, even with the geothermal. The geothermal company turned around and took a loan from our national bank. That to me makes absolutely no sense. We want companies coming into Dominica with their capital, with their investments, that can create jobs for us. And we believe that we're well on our way to doing this. We understand how it's done. We know what levers to push. We know where to go. And that is what we'll bring. This is the kind of expertise that we bring. Although we've not been in government, but we've been in the place where we have aided other countries to improve their economies. I don't have to give you the story of St. Kitts. I've said it enough. I think by now every Dominican knows my story with St. Kitts. But I'm telling you that we can do this because we believe that Dominica has what it takes to be one of the strongest economies, not only in the Caribbean, but in the world. Because we have the resources here in Dominica. It's about working those resources. And you talked about taxes. The question of tax is a trade-off. So we have a situation now where we are so heavily taxed in Dominica that we can barely breathe. Our tax regime is punitive. It is horrible. We have income tax on top of VAT, on top of duties, all of that, just levies, arbitrary levies, $10,000 levies by there, $3,000 by there. You have all of those things literally stifling the country. You have to understand that there is a way that you can allow the economy to grow, and as the economy grows, your tax revenues also increases, because tax is directly related, or the tax income is directly linked to the growth of the economy. So if your economy is growing nicely, your tax revenues will grow. You have enough money to do what you have to do as a government. The problem we have in Dominica is that because the economy has not been growing for so long, we have to try to keep raising the taxes to try to catch up. But that's not what should be done. You should be in a situation where the economy is growing and you're lowering the taxes to allow more things to happen. And that is what we understand. And that, by the way, and it's very important to make that point, that is where this government lacks. Even after 25 years, they still do not get it. They lack the skills, they lack the ability to move this very small economy. And it's time to go. Quite frankly, it's time. I mean, 26 years is a long time of suffering for our people.
You mentioned that the economy is not growing, and that's what my last question. I will say the last question and then I'm done. But the recently published World
IMF, yes.
Said that we experience
growth of 3.5%, 3.5%. Yeah. So if you're doing nothing, if you've been growing by less than just about 1%, if you go by 3%, like you're popping the champagne bottles and so on. But that is nothing for our economy, for a country like ours, to generate wealth, to put money into the pockets of the people, to ensure that people don't have the kind of hardships that we're having, the kind of emails that I get on an almost daily basis, or text messages. Can you help me with my groceries? Can you do this? We are having this because of the failure of this government to grow the economy. Okay? But we will differently. Because like I said, if you're able to grow the economy, all of those issues go away. And that is where I believe the United Workers' Party government has a distinct advantage over this government. They understand the way it's done and will move the country in that direction.
My final question. You mentioned that the government considers agriculture as being industry. However, we have quite a lot going on in agriculture, as well as the government has an aggressive 2030 plan.
Pie in the sky plan. Yeah, they have just been throwing numbers around, quite frankly. So the government comes and says by 2030 we will get $700 million in agriculture. Based on what? How do you get from 5 million to 750 million? They've not told us. They've come and said, okay, we'll give the young people pieces of land for $1. But you give a young man a piece of land, you don't give him the support that he needs. He's not working anywhere. How is he going to develop this piece of land? So it seems to me that they believe that the Dominican public is gullible, so they can throw these things out. They probably go online, do something quickly and chat GPT and get some information, and they throw it back to the public. But that's not what is done. What you have is, and that's the thing I like about this coming election, it will provide a distinct choice for the Dominican public. The Dominican public will get a chance to choose between a government that has done nothing, that continues to fail them, and a government that has a plan to put money into the pockets of the Dominican public. And I think that's a choice that the Dominican public will welcome. And you know who's going to win that battle. Because I believe every Dominican wants the opportunity to put money in their pockets. We want to go back to the days, maybe of the old matrice days, when the farmers lifted the mattress and took out the money. It's probably, we'll encourage them to go in the bank. But we want to get back to those days where money flowed freely in the villages of Dominica. That is where we're positioning. And that is something we are offering to the Dominican public.
You mentioned about the United Front. Is this one of the differences that is affecting your party?
A United Front?
United Front is the opposition parties.
But our party, as I tried to explain earlier, our party is united. We are working.
I mean, because you said that the collaboration within the opposition parties.
Yes.
So I'm asking, Is that one of the differences? Remember you mentioned the differences within your party. Is that one of the differences? The differences of strategy. For example, you want to go with a united front for collaboration, whereas the others don't.
Oh, in that particular, no, but on every issue, I mean, take any issue, and you put it before a group, a diverse group as we have within the United Workers' Party, you'll get differences of opinion. It's just natural. And I don't know why people think that there is a problem when there is a difference of opinion. There are different people having different views, and it's up to me to convince my colleagues that what I'm saying is the way to go. It's up to them to convince me that the way is the way to go. At the end of the day, we come to a common agreement and we move on. And that's the way it should be. So don't read too much into disagreeing about certain things. I think what all of us agree upon is that the United Workers' Party is a better party to put money into the pockets of the Dominican Republic. And there is no disagreement over that. All right. I think we can. All right. I think I want to say thank you to all of you.
Right. Thank you for the questions, journalists. I think you allow the opportunity for some good education. Thank you for the questions, and the responses must have given you some good knowledge and understanding of economics. We have seen, and just to strengthen a little bit before we come to a close, that over the past 26 years, the government have been outward looking. In other words, very dependent on the global friends and partners for its help in Dominica. The current global trajectory forces us to look internally, and that is why for UWP government, we have to look at the resources that we have, both human and physical, to ensure that when we bring them together, we create a better life, a better economy in this country. And we are well on our way to do that, because the global situation is calling us to do just that. So while we close, I would like to call on our deputy political leader to give us a closing remarks and a vote of thanks.
Okay, thank you. First of all, let me take this opportunity to thank the media houses that have been in our midst today. Of course, Mr. Oswald George, DNO, and of course, MO News, Curtis Matthew, I see you, and of course, everybody else. Miss out anybody? Okay. Thank you for coming. You heard from I say it like this, the next Prime Minister of Dominica, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, he has highlighted and give us an insight as to the way forward. This kind of exercise, you will see much more of it coming as the time goes by. I also want to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to our head table, and Mr. President, thank you for the work that you have been doing. We continue to remain focused on what is important. We continue to do what we have to do as a party. We emphasize, as I leave here, that the confirmation process is important. If you have not yet confirmed, it is always good to do so, and make sure if you're not registered and you're a young person, you do that too. Having said that, thank you very much for being here, and may God continue to bless you. Thank you.
And with this, we say goodbye and thanks for viewing, everyone.